Greetings, friends. Welcome to my channel. I am Alexander Musienko, and now I suggest we talk about the statement by the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, in which he noted that Putin will soon die. Putin will soon die. That's a fact, and everything will end, said the Ukrainian head of state. What does this mean? Well, we have heard repeatedly many different kinds of statements that Putin's health has significantly deteriorated. We know the numerous memes about these stories. His long table about how he was afraid, panicked about getting COVID-19. And everyone has already mocked these long tables where he held meetings. Now he mostly holds virtual meetings. That is via video conferencing, as the Kremlin has mastered 21st century technology. But in the meantime, there were many statements from the Ukrainian main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense, and Western publications like Newsweek and Bild conducted their investigations and wrote various versions and possible different diagnoses, either prostate cancer or leukemia. Well, it seems that there is progressive brain cancer. I am not a doctor to make diagnoses, but to analyze what might have been happening. This is necessary. The fact is that all the publications that appear in the media are connected in one way or another, not with empty rumors. It's clear that spreading gossip and rumors seems easy, especially when we have the means and tools to convey them. The 21st century, the world's social networks and technology give us such capabilities. But, of course, it's not just about gossip. It's about the fact that one way or another, from time to time, you can hear about how much Putin fears for his life, how cautious he is, and that he might indeed be ill. But at the same time, and this is from the authoritative publication The Times, it reported the following at one time. This was literally last year. So, The Times wrote that Putin wants to live a very long life. He plans to outlive many, because in fact, he is working on biolabs, meaning he has ordered the construction of biolabs that experiment with biotechnologies, with DNA, and essentially work on extending life, on regenerating cells, to live a very long time, over 100 years. Kovalchuk inspired him to do this. This is the same Kovalchuk who is part of the close circle of communication with Putin, and who was, among other things, perhaps the only interlocutor of the Russian dictator during the COVID-19 pandemic. They talked about many things. They discussed the role of the Russian world, the Russian idea, why Moscow should dominate and be an empire, constantly expanding its own horizons. This, in fact, is what they talked about for a very long time. And accordingly, this also had an impact. There was also Ilyin, a Russian fascist, and many other figures whom Kovalchuk quoted, whom he and Putin read and discussed together. And Kovalchuk, much like Patrushev to some extent, is quite a serious proponent of theorism, spreading various rumors and nonsense about how the United States, through some biolabs, viruses, and other things, seeks to destroy the Russian dictator and Russia as a whole. There, it is popularized, circulated, and such a viewpoint has been popular among them. So, this same Kovalchuk inspired Putin to create a biolab that was supposed to set the following tasks for scientists to develop anti-aging means, including research into advanced technologies such as 3D bioprinting, as well as the use of blood from cut antlers of deer. This is a likely obsession of Putin's ally, Kovalchuk, who also claims that the USA is developing corresponding biological weapons to ensure that Putin lives as short a life as possible. Well, that's essentially what he is working on. In other words, Putin is very seriously afraid for his life, and he truly aspires to live a very long life and effectively be a dictator, continuing the war. In contrast, what the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, said is truly shocking because Putin will soon die. And accordingly, a scientific analysis can be drawn from this. To avoid getting lost in speculation, in wondering what diagnosis Putin has, or establishing this anamnesis, we can turn to history and see that the only one who lived a long life among Soviet dictators was Mikhail Gorbachev. He lived to be 91 years old. The rest all had an average age of death, which was 65, 72, 73 years among Soviet leaders. They died from various causes. The only one who died earlier was Vladimir Lenin. He died at 53 years old. Joseph Stalin died, well, according to different versions, he was either 75 or just 74. The official version is from a stroke. The next one, Nikita Khrushchev, died at 77. He died from a third heart attack, which led to irreversible factors affecting his health and resulting in his death. Leonid Brezhnev died at 75. The official cause was a sudden cardiac arrest due to numerous heart diseases. Yuri Andropov died at 69. Konstantin Chernenko. Death occurred at 73. Liver and pulmonary cardiac heart failure. Pardon me. The only Mikhail Gorbachev. Boris Yeltsin, president of Russia, predecessor of Putin, who brought the current Russian dictator to power. Yeltsin died at 76. Here you go, the age of mortality. The only one who lived was Gorbachev. Well, of course, considering that Putin strives to drink deer blood and bathe in baths and drink some tea with Shoigu in Altai, or wherever they went on vacations and made propaganda videos from it. Well, actually, he probably wants to live at least twice as long as Gorbachev, but here are the facts. Here is the death statistics of Soviet leaders. Putin is absolutely approaching this age, and he finds that the trends were such that it was either cardiovascular diseases that Soviet leaders died from, or complications arising from chronic illnesses. These were the causes of death. Well, actually, let's say the reactions were varied. The most important thing is to understand what will happen next when Putin dies. In the Soviet Union, this meant a very serious power struggle. It was secretive. It certainly wasn't on the front pages of Soviet newspapers, and no one could write about it. But as we now know from history, from numerous facts, this struggle was desperate, sometimes with a completely unpredictable outcome. And who will emerge as the winner in this race and effectively take the throne of governance? Will essentially continue to rule the state. In this case, we also have many questions because much has been written, said, and filmed about Putin's successor, about who it might be, how they might govern, whether they will follow the dictatorship. Obviously, they probably will. Could it be someone else? That is, many assertions, hypotheses, and assumptions exist. But one thing is clear. Certain changes have occurred. They did not occur only during the era of stagnation, when Brezhnev, Andropov, Chernenko were in power, but eventually they began to happen after them, because neither Andropov nor Chernenko managed to stay in their positions for very long. After all, they were replaced just as the policies of the Soviet Union eventually changed. By the way, the one who changed it to perestroika, so-called, and ultimately contributed to the dissolution of the Soviet Union, was Mikhail Gorbachev, who lived to be 91 years old. And those who tried to centralize control, establish dictatorship, totalitarian regimes, authoritarianism, they died much earlier. These are facts. This is statistics, and this is mathematics. Accordingly, here too, after Putin's death, what will happen? After Putin's death, a serious power struggle is also expected. It must be understood that the clans around Putin built on the FSB's corrupt business model, which is based on the structure of special services and Russian state corporations and conglomerates, aimed at enriching the so-called elite, and the top of today's Russia are essentially designed to release their own clans. In other words, those who are the most resilient and who will win the war must come to the top. After Putin, there will definitely be a significant struggle and a war for power and governance in Russia, which ultimately will reveal who will govern Russia in the future. This is what they are very afraid of. And for us, this means, well, that is, they will have a struggle, just like in the USSR for many days. Unless there isn't, it will still be stagnation, like the Brezhnev era, which ultimately will lead to further processes. That will bring change. That is, after all, it's obvious. And for us, for Ukraine, this means that we might get a certain window of opportunity. This window of opportunity might not be very long lasting. And we shouldn't expect that. It will immediately lead to the collapse of Russia. We would like to believe in this, but it might not happen. And for us, this will mean that we will be able to do certain things that we are currently considering. And that, of course, should be part of our strategic state building and planning. This includes the deoccupation of territories, the expulsion of Russian troops, the strengthening of the Ukrainian state, and integration into international alliances and blocs, while, let's say, there is discord in the Kremlin. And while our Western partners observing this will not oppose Ukraine's integration and accession to these structures. This is what it could mean for us in practice. And that's why Volodymyr Zelensky is absolutely right. Putin will die. It is important for us to be patient, continue the fight, and when asked what the strategy is. And the strategy for the near future should be as follows and should sound like this. We must outlive Putin, because after that, we will have windows of opportunity, regardless of what kind of struggle for power unfolds in Russia. And the bloodier this struggle is, the more discord and problems there are among them, the better it is for us, undoubtedly. And this, precisely this, needs to be understood in the context of what it means when Putin dies. Putin will die, and we will live. And that's why we continue to fight. Take care of yourselves, and glory to Ukraine.